gentlemen, our listeners and guests and YouTube subscribers, welcome to another episode of Boss Up with Mr. Key, where we talk to the bosses. Hopefully they can inspire you just like they inspire me. And today's guest is a gentleman I met, and we really hit it off. We had a lot in common about main thing is helping people. Genuinely want to be that expert for people going into the housing market. And without further ado, we kind of connected and now we're somewhat partners. And so that's what I really feel like business is about. So without further ado, let me introduce my guest of Elite Financing Group, Josh Bibler. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Hey, thanks, Andre. Appreciate you having me. And like you said, good introduction. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last month or so, month and a half. And you hit on the nail on the head. We got a very like-minded, love to help people, especially when it comes to real estate transaction and realizing the dream of home ownership. So appreciate you having me.
Nice. And the thing is, I sold you a little short. I know I've just really met you months ago, but you've been in business for over 20 years, right?
That's right. Yep.
Man, that's staying power right there.
Yeah. Got in the mortgage business back in 2002. Started Elite Financing Group in 2005. So we've seen a lot here in the Austin area.
I bet. We're going to get back to that because I want to know how you survive some of the tough times in the industry.
Yeah.
But let's go back even further. Let's take it back to, I didn't even look up what year you were born, but let's take it back to the year you had a pacifier in your mouth.
Well,
where were you?
That would have been back in the late 70s, born in 77.
Okay.
I was born down in Houston, Clear Lake area to be exact.
Nice.
Which is kind of between Houston and Galveston.
Sounds like humidity.
Very much. Very, very humid down there. My folks still live down there in the Clear Lake area, right across the street from Johnson Space Center. Okay. That's kind of where my roots were, man. Nice. That's where I grew up. That's where I, cut my teeth, became the man I am today. A lot of mistakes, we talk about. A lot of mistakes were made down in Clear Lake City, man. But all joking aside, that's really enjoyed living down there by the water.
Nice.
Have a lot of really close relationships that are still in that area. So in fact, I was just down there this past Monday. So
so you still have some good friends, some good people that you go and see.
Absolutely.
Family still there?
Folks still live in the same house.
Oh, wow.
So,
nice.
Yeah. Got to spend some time with them Monday morning. And then I've got a younger sister. I'm the oldest of four children. I got my sister who lives in Grapevine.
Oh, okay.
And then I've got two younger brothers. One works for me, actually. And he lives up here in Austin. And then I've got my youngest brother, Luke. He lives in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, okay. So what was that like growing up in a household of four, being the oldest?
Well, I could tell you, it depends on who you ask. But as the oldest, man, my sister and I, we were only about a year apart.
Okay.
We got a really tough relationship growing up. I wasn't the best older brother. Let me just be very, very clear about that. But as we've gotten older, man, her and I are really, really tight.
That's good.
My two younger brothers, we grew up in a family, very faith-based family. My parents, we grew up in the church. We were involved with our church. A lot of the whole neighborhood. We kind of didn't know anything other than our friends that went to church with that kind of lived in the same neighborhood. So obviously have a strong faith. That was the foundation of what we grew up in. And that's kind of what has really I've kept that going through my life. I've, God obviously is number one, but just the teachings of treating other people the way you want to be treated.
Nice.
Is really kind of the foundation of
core principles. Core principles. Man. How many days a week did you have to go to church?
Well, we only had to go really Sundays.
Okay, good.
That was but Sundays was hugely important.
Right, I bet.
So, but we had a blast. I didn't know anything else other than
your family, your parents grew you up in the word right away, and kind of use that as a good foundation.
Absolutely.
What about high school, man? Where'd you went to Clearwater High School?
Clear Creek.
Clear Creek.
Yep.
Clear Creek. Okay,
yep.
Got it. What was that like going to high school?
Man, that was so our high school, our freshman class was 1,000 freshmen incoming.
Wow, that's pretty big high school.
Which is pretty big, especially for the time. That was back in 92, I believe, 91, 92. So yeah, I had a big, very well diverse high school.
Nice.
A large group. And man, it was different. I wasn't the best high school student. I didn't apply myself the way that I should have, and the way that I try to get my boys to apply themselves. But ultimately, I was a very social guy. I really liked. I had a big group of friends. I had a lot of fun in high school.
So that was more of the distraction. Like your peer group was more important.
Absolutely.
Hey, but that was like the beginning of learning how to network, I bet.
Amen. That's exactly right. Yep. Those were some good lessons I learned in high school. But
good.
But ultimately, man, had a great upbringing.
Great experience there.
Really enjoyed living down there. What I would say in the off the Gulf Coast. Spent a lot of time in Galveston.
That sounds amazing. Did you do a lot of fishing down there?
Love fishing. Still do that to this very day.
That's great. Yeah. What's the biggest fish that you've caught?
It's funny you asked that. My son, I got him into fishing now, and he asked me.
He clips the dad's record.
Yeah, he's probably pretty close to me, man. We fish saltwater fishing, so we caught a lot of redfish growing up, and I'd probably say the biggest fish I've probably caught was about a 37-inch redfish.
Nice. That's big, man. Yeah. That's huge.
I haven't done the whole offshore fishing, gotten too involved in that.
Sharks or big,
I haven't done all that yet. But
that seems fun, man. I mean, back in the day, my grandfather used to try to take me fishing. But I was from the city, it was too slow. Like, granddad, we've been out here like 2 hours.
I'm not a patient guy, so it did take me a little bit to get used to that. But you're right, man. It is. It's a sport that involves a lot of patience.
It takes some patience. Another key thing that, especially in our business, it takes a lot of patience when you deal with people.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, especially when you're working with first time home buyers or people who haven't done it, right? I mean, this. It's you got to have the patience. You got to let them, give them the opportunity to get to understand and kind of teach them what's going on.
It's funny you say that, because they do have to understand before you can try to move forward. Yep. And I find a lot of people who try to drag these people forward, but they haven't even understand fully the first layer of the process. And so now they're apprehensive. And a lot of times that's the person that probably won't pick up the phone when you try to call them and say, hey, what happened? Yeah. You tried to rush me. Really, that's what happened. So,
well, that's where you can make or break a transaction, right?
True.
And especially with a relationship that you have with your client. I think one of the things that and we'll probably get more into this later, but one of the things that I try to make sure that I do is the communication, over communicate, right? Key. I mean, I want to make sure I'm always available and making sure I'm always communicating with my clients, because if there's one little break in that communication, that's where things can go awry.
People will go crazy, haywire.
That's right.
So after high school, did you dabble in any sports, or you just?
I was a big baseball player growing up.
Sweet. Okay. Good.
I did not. I pretty much stopped about my freshman year in high school.
You really wanted to hang out with the guys.
It's funny you say that, because that was probably the one reason I didn't keep playing, right? I got a little sidetracked there. But, I'm a big sports guy. I was a big baseball fan, obviously. I love football, basketball. Nice. I was, a fan of any Houston sports, right? Okay. So I was a big Oilers fan back in the day before they left us. Big Stros fan still to this day. Nice. And, my junior and senior year of high school was when the Houston Rockets won back-to-back championships, right?
They had a king.
Yeah, man. So those were, I like to say, those were the glory years for the Rockets, and also more for me too.
I love Houston for a time back, and we're the same demographic. But the White Sox won their first championship against Houston, when they were in the NL. So
I hadn't forgot about that.
That was a great time for Chicagoans. Yeah. So after high school, did you go to college? Did you start work? Oh, you did. Where'd you go?
So after high school, I went to DeVry University up in Dallas.
Okay.
Went up there. I actually stayed a year in Houston. I worked for my dad, and then went up to DeVry. Didn't really have a mapped out at the time.
That's tough when you go to college without a clear plan.
Yeah, and so I kind of took that first year, really mapped out what I wanted to do. Went up to DeVry and studied business.
Okay, nice.
There, got my degree in 3 years. Actually went through, did summer school every year. When I got into school, I've always had that business mindset. I know we're going to talk about that here in a minute, but it was kind of one of those things where I started going through school, and I was like, man, I want to get through this so I can get out and really
get into the world. Right. What about business attracted you? Like, what is it?
Well, so I my dad was always in sales.
Okay.
being involved with his company the first year I was out of high school. You know, I had worked through high school. My dad was pretty tough.
You worked for him?
No, I didn't work for him, but he made me work, right? I mean, if I had free time, I mean, I had to, when I turned 16, I had to work to afford to pay, you know, insurance to drive his car. But, you know, that was something that at the time I didn't really appreciate. But now, you know, being where I'm at, 46 years old, that was really where it all began, really, right? It taught me really the discipline, what it takes to get out and be successful. You know, and there's a lot of hard work involved in that. But so I had that business acumen. I started mowing yards and around the neighborhood to make money. I had to mow my dad's yard for free, right?
Of course,
so it's like, hey, he wouldn't pay me, so I'm gonna get somebody to pay me.
This way you can hone your skills on your dad's yard.
Yeah, that's right. So you know, when I went to school at DeVry, it's a different school. It really kind of gets you focused on what your major is, right? What you're majoring, and it really prepares you.
They cut out a lot of the fluff and put you right into what you're going to major in.
Yep.
I did a stint at DeVry, but you know, I was unfocused, and it took me years to finally finish. But that's another story. With your dad, however, you know, was that the first kind of salesperson or entrepreneur you had a chance to kind of like study and be close to?
Well, actually, my grandfather, my dad's dad, was both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. My dad's dad he owned a bank in Indiana, Northwest Indiana Bank. So he was in the banking business, had his own bank, had his own branch of bank. So I saw what he was doing. I saw the hard work he put in. My mom's mom, my mom's father rather. He had the family restaurant.
Nice. Okay.
And so he really, what I learned more from him was the true hard work, right? What it really takes. You know, running a restaurant is not for the weak. You know, there's a lot of hard work involved in that. So I really saw the day to day and what he was involved with to really see a successful business, a successful restaurant, to see that grow. And that was really what really had me going, even, you know, as soon as in intermediate school. You know,
good.
Just seeing that, hey,
it sowed a seed in you that really started to fester, and you might not have known it until the hindsight is already always 20/20. But now you look back, I'm sure you're like, man, that's when that seed got planted.
You know, you always have the desire, hey, I want to be like my dad or my grandpa and grandpa.
First heroes, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And so that was certainly, I think, the first time where I said, man, that looks like something I'd want to do.
Nice.
You know, when I get older, when I grow up. Right?
By the way, shout out to Northwest Indiana. I bought my first home in Northwest Indiana, in Maryville, Indiana. So shout out to Cherville, Maryville.
You and I think have this conversation. That's where my grandparents. That's where my grandparents, or that's my grandfather's restaurant was in Cherville.
Yeah, good.
It's a restaurant called Teeble's Restaurant, and then my both of them, I went to Valparaiso University, which is where my dad and my dad's side of the family grew up. So that's you know all about Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's look at it this way now. So, you know, you graduated, you went to DeVry, you took care of your business. It sounds like you were focused. What did you do then? Did you start working for someone, or did you go into business right away?
So, kind of going back to what I said earlier, like Dad had me working.
Oh, okay.
Right? When everybody else was playing around, I was working. Right.
Nice.
And so when I got into school at DeVry, I started working with a company called the Associates. They were more of a financial credit card company. They did debts and all that. And so then they bought out by Citicorp at the time. And so I had kind of worked there for probably the last 2.5 years of going to school.
Okay.
So I kind of had that customer service mentality, you know, kind of honed in on those skills during that time.
Was that like the start of your financial background?
Probably, yeah. It's where I really kind of got some good knowledge and you know, what the finance world has to offer.
You said it was more credit card servicing?
Did a lot of credit card service, and I kind of bounced around through several departments, but, you know, I did some collections, which was a lot of fun.
Let's tie something in really quick. Collections, credit card servicing, what kind of information can you give someone that's looking to buy a home or invest? Like, where should those credit card balances be?
Man, that's a great question, Andre. Yeah. So really, to boost anyone's credit up, the credit card companies want to see that you have about a 30% allocation of your limit. So simple math. If you got $1,000 credit limit, you want to have no more than $300 on that credit card. Anything above that is when it starts to affect the actual scoring, right? So what I always tell people that are either trying to build credit or try to repair their credit, first thing to do, pay them credit cards down to a 30% less threshold.
Is that more important than paying off maybe some debt or a medical bill that's owed?
Absolutely, 100%. The medical bills they can stay on there, but they don't have nearly as big of an impact as a balance would, like on a revolving trade line. So that's going to be anything from, a credit card to, maybe some furniture loan or something like that, car loan. These are all revolving, or a car note actually is a installment loan, but those are the bulk of what you want to really keep down.
And you want to make sure that you stay on top of those and pay them on time.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, all right. So, I mean, you're in the financial, lightly, probably doing some customer service. You probably switched jobs or worked for your dad. Like, where did your plight move you to mortgage? When did that happen?
So when I moved down to Austin, my dad at that point was a financial advisor. And so my plan initially was when I got down here, let's kind of take the path that he did and be a financial advisor. Okay. Well, that led me to kind of getting a little frustrated, to be quite honest. There was a, being new to Austin, not having a real big book of business. It's
a hard sell.
It was tough, right? And so I ended up going to a job fair. I'm always one that's going to keep my options open. At least at that time, I was always looking to keep my options open. But I went to a job fair and got an interview with a company called AmeriQuest Mortgage Company. And those may be familiar with AmeriQuest from back in the day, but they were a big subprime mortgage lender back in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
In fact, the Ranger Stadium at one point in Arlington was named, they bought the rights to that AmeriQuest field back in the day. But anyway, that was my introduction to the mortgage industry. Now, I would say that first year of being in mortgages, I learned a lot.
What year was this?
So that would have been 2002 to 2003.
Okay. Still, pretty. Interest rates were probably 6.25%, maybe.
Actually, they were about where they're at right now, to be honest with you. They're about, we were selling 7.5% to 8% interest rates, very similar to what market we're in right now.
Interesting.
So, but what I learned about that process is a couple things that I think has carried me to where I'm at today. Number one is, there were a lot of people being in the subprime market, meaning they have less than perfect credit. Man, those people are just like you and me. You know what I'm saying? In fact, I would have been a subprime buyer when I first bought a house. Right. And so I just had a heart to take care of those folks. I wanted to make sure that they knew that they weren't who their credit score was.
Right.
Just if their credit score was lower than most, that's okay. We still can provide the same opportunities for you.
Do you think people with lower credit scores, do you think it's about maybe they don't make enough income or they don't have the financial literacy to manage their budget?
I think it's the financial literacy piece. I think the more people, and I was one of these people as well.
Yeah,
right?
I was too. Yeah, I've been through
when I got out of school. Well, my dad had always taught me, you don't buy anything unless you can pay cash for it.
Right.
You don't charge it on a credit card. Don't go into debt.
Yeah.
But the thing is that most people don't know, just like probably you and I, it sounds like, when I got out of college, I didn't have a credit card.
No.
So I didn't have any credit at all. So my scores were terrible. So I had to build that up. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that.
Yeah.
Going back to the 30% threshold, most people don't know that, right? So they think, hey, I get a credit card as long as I don't go over my limit, I'm cool.
Right. I can just run it up to half or whatever, right?
Yeah. And that's just so detrimental, right? So when you figure these, and these tricks of the trade, so to speak, and you know how to really utilize your credit the way that you should be, it just makes all the difference in the world. So
nice.
But it allowed me to kind of have that mindset that, hey, I'm here to help people out, and that's really what kind of spearheaded where I wanted to go in the mortgage business, quite frankly.
So let's talk about that quote unquote key moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you decided, hey, and I don't know if there was another employer in between then.
Yeah, there was actually. So from AmeriQuest, I went over to a subprime version, or a subprime department rather, of Countrywide Home Loans. It was called Full Spectrum Lending, right? And honestly, that was the real opportunity that I had where the light really went on. And man, I really took it from here, to the next level in terms of production.
Right.
Man, I was one of the top producers for months running in that branch, and that's where I really started to get excited.
How'd you build your database? Because we all know that it takes either, if we're in the sales business, sales industry.
Sure.
And so the more people we can talk to, the more successful we can become. Like, how did you meet all these people?
Well, so when I went over to Full Spectrum Countrywide, we were basically a call center, right?
Oh, okay.
And so it kind of goes back to what I did in college, right? Is I was real good on being on.
You
the
were
phone.
smooth on the phone.
I had a little bit of skill on the phone, right? And so, what I did do though is that was when rates were kind of, like I said, about 7.5, and then they started to come down into the 6% range, and we went into what I would say our first refi boom of the 2000s, right? And so I figured at that time, man, this isn't going to last long, right? Yeah. These are going to ebbs and flows. Little did I know it was going to last like 20 years or whatever. But what I started to do is to say, hey, I'm going to start going out and spending 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I want to go out and start meeting with real estate agents like yourself. Go through some of the banks, your local banks, your Wells Fargo, just meeting people and finding, hey, I'm doing subprime lending. If you guys, I know they can't do them. They only strictly a paper. Hey, whatever you guys can't service in your branch, I'd love to help out. No reason to. Let's provide your client with somebody who's
a smart idea,
with. Right? And so I started doing that when everybody else was still raking in all the refinances, right? And so that's kind of where I really kind of started saying, hey, this is something that I really like. I really enjoy doing. There's something to be said about helping people refinance and lower their payments, pay off debt through equity. But then there's a whole nother side when you can help people that, like I said, have that dream of home ownership and think they can't do it now. At that time, you didn't really need to put money down to buy a house.
Really?
Right? Yeah. So we're doing 100% finance loans.
Man.
So then it was like, hey, everybody can buy a house, right?
580.
That's right.
We can do it.
That's right, 100%, man.
What at that point? So from that transition to, and I still want to kind of talk about when you got your own mortgage company or brokerage. Yeah. Were you married with children at that point?
No.
Oh, okay.
Was actually engaged to be married at that time. And it's kind of funny. I got married in June of 2004. So this would have been 2003 to end of 2004. So I got married right before I got out of Countrywide and started my own business. And to be honest with you, Dre, what really sparked me to do that was, as a top producer, I started getting into leadership, and I started learning a little bit of the back end of the business. And just my servant heart started to realize that, man, we're charging these people, discount points and, origination fees. And you know what? That's
doesn't
not
seem right.
Well, it's just not necessary, right? Like, this is just going to profitability of the branch. And it was kind of like, I always like to say, it's kind of the dirty side of it, right? And I learned that pretty quick. And so that was what really sparked me and kind of lit that fire to say, man, I can do this. I still want to help people. I love this industry, but I want to do it in a respectable way, a way that is not going to, mortgage brokers, I think can sometimes have a bad name, right? They have a bad rap. Not all of us are like that. You know what I mean?
So you had this idea of like, hey, I think I can do right by people, and I can, use that as my credibility. But before you made that transition, was there a moment where you're like on the edge of the, let's say the deep end of the pool, and I'm sure there was a little fear about jumping in. Did you stick your toe in? Did you just go straight in?
Well, I had to jump in, man, and I'll tell you, it's cool because when my manager at the time, he said, "Hey, we've got a branch up or down in San Antonio, and I want you to go down there and manage this branch." And at that time, again, my mind was kind of racing, like feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and so I politely declined at that point and just said, "Hey, man, I really appreciate the opportunity. I feel like I have another calling." And so I didn't dip my toe in. I just jumped straight in, right? I had a buddy who's since passed a few years back, but him and I got together and just on a napkin, put together a business plan, and
back napkin.
the old napkin story, right? Southwest story, right? But yeah, we put together a plan, and June of 2005 is when we officially kind of got Elite Financing Group up, officially the company off the ground, signed a lease, and prayed a lot.
Yeah, you definitely have to. You have to believe. You pray and believe and have the faith. What did I talk to a lot of potential business owners, and they have great ideas, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to fund your ideas unless you have some family or you can raise money. Like, how did you get the funds to be able to launch Pad?
So we started with just a signature line of credit.
Okay. Yeah.
And, put that up against on my credit as just like a trade line. That was kind of the initial investment. And we put in 20 grand.
Nice.
And then a lot of that was just my own personal commissions that I was making, and I just kept it into the company, And so there was, for anybody starting a business, you don't just jump in and you start making money, and it sounds great, Hey, I own this company, but man, there is a lot of hard work. There's a lot of grit that you got to go through, and really financially there can be some really tough times. There could also be some very rewarding times,
no
and we've had all of it, right? And so very, very blessed to be able to start. Have the guidance, have a good business partner at the time who really we were on the same wavelength.
We're in sync.
We were in sync 100%, right? And so, but as these markets change, and hey, and let's be honest, we're in Austin, right?
Yeah.
When I was blessed to get in this business at the right time.
Exactly.
There's always a little bit.
You've seen a lot though now,
and it's been crazy to watch Austin grow.
It's been so crazy. And the other thing, you said something key about, putting your money back in the business. And I tell people that as well. Like, the way I'm able to adjust my business when times change is because I pay my business first. Like, I don't, I want to make sure the people that work for me, my business debt, all of that gets taken care of before I can pay. And if I feel like, hey, I'm not making enough, well, I need to work harder so that some of that can spill over to me. And I think that's kind of the thing. I have this term that I always tell people: manage your money, or your money is going to manage you. And if your money starts managing you, it's almost impossible to get ahead.
That's right.
And it sounds like you did that as well.
Yeah, you got to, man. It takes money to make money. And I think if, when you understand the fact that, hey, I love what you say, you pay out of each transaction, you're paying the company, right? Just like anybody else. I'm not going to ask, one of my other sales loan officers to do something I'm not willing to do myself, right? So, but yeah, you got to leave the money in there. You got, if you want to build something good, and we've been doing this for now over 18 years, and so, it's been a good ride. These last several years have been very, very fun. This year's been challenging, as those of us in real estate know. But you know what though? It's hard to complain.
It's hard to complain. I try not to be engulfed in all the negative press, and I just stay positive. I know what my calling is, and I get blessed. So I just try to keep things churning. What about hiring people? When did you have your first employee?
So we hired kind of our processor, compliance manager right off the bat pretty quickly. Now, when I say hired her, it took some convincing and honestly a little bit of sacrifice on her part, because we couldn't really afford at that time to pay her a big salary and anything like that. It was more kind of a per file fee. And as we started to grow, the revenue started to get a little bit bigger, had some reserves. Then it was time to put her on a salary. So we were very fortunate that we had this lady, awesome woman.
Nice.
Still talk to her to this day. She's near and dear to my heart. But she was right there with us, man. There was really me, my business partner Bert Fitz, and Regina Wharton. We had a mission, man, and
everybody was aligned. Like, they had to believe in the mission.
There was that trust that we all had to have, and the process that we were working at, and had to have that in each other. Quite frankly, so.
Some sweat equity. So, from that point, now obviously you have more employees. There's a saying that I hear people say: "Good help is hard to find." Have you experienced that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I think It is hard to find these days, especially this time right now. But we've been very blessed with some really good people. I think what we did. One of the things that I'm probably most proud of is that we built a culture of really good people. Again, kind of going back to that mentality of treating others the way you want to be treated, right? The golden rule, man. I mean, that's just what I'm about, right? So putting others first. I mean, I've always done that. But I think when you can build a culture like that, it's a little bit easier to bring in good, solid people, because then they get fit in that and they want to work a little bit harder. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But, there are times where it's like, where are the good people now, man?
Like, man. Who was the woman that that was part of the trio that really put some sweat equity in? You look for those people.
I know she was a gem, man. She was, but we have a lot of really good people right now, and these are a lot of people that have been with Elite Financing Group. They've been with us for a long time. They really believe in who we are, and again, that culture. They fit that culture, and they all, again, it's, I think when you can get aligned with one another, make sure that everybody knows, what the vision is. Yeah. And if that vision changes, you got to communicate that.
Constant communication is important,
man. Yes, so we've done a real good job about doing it.
That's good, man. Well, I mean, I've seen where you built your business. I can tell where that grit and hard work comes from. Now I want to talk a little bit about the mortgage industry. Yeah. So nobody has a crystal ball, but I'm sure the listeners, this show will probably be out within a week or so, Wes. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you foresee just from your expertise, those interest rates going?
Well, we're coming up in an election year. So rates always come down a little bit during election year. So that's good. Good. I personally think that we've got another probably to about Q3, Q4 next year to where we see rates really come back into about the 5 to 6% interest rate range. Okay. And I think that's a really good market to be in, When
it goes back to that, I think the market is going to go crazy again.
Prices are going to go up immediately. Yeah. That's why, I keep telling people right now, if you're looking to buy right now, you don't be afraid of the rate because you're not going to get a better deal, especially in Austin. But I think overall, prices. Right? I mean, look for that value right now. And, rates are coming back down. So when it does, it's easy to refinance, man. Just call me.
That's easy. What about so you do refis? Do you do a lot of HELOCs or anything like that? Not too much?
We don't really do a whole lot of HELOCs. We do have partners that we partner with for those. But we do cash out refinances. Of course, our rate and term refinances, heavy on the purchase business. But we'll do anywhere from conventional, USDA, VA, FHA. We've got construction loan products. Nice. I always like to say, whatever, any product that'll help you buy a residential property, we can offer. Good. There's some commercial vendors or partners that we have that we like to work with. That's not like a huge part of our business, but those clients that we work with, they have relationships. They have the need for that at times. So we want to make sure that we have those partners that we can share with them.
So is it safe to say if a person needs some type of mortgage product, I mean, come to you. You may have a solution for them.
100%. Yeah. I'm grateful for any opportunity that I get. And, you and I have been working together, and man, I'm so grateful for our relationship. Yeah, You've got some really good people that I've been able to work with, and we're helping in the middle of helping right now. But, I think I told this to somebody just the other day that, they really want to buy a house, right? And I'm like, well, what are we waiting on? Let's do it. You're not getting what's to be afraid of. Right. If you can't do it now, let's put together the path to what it's going to take to get there. Because if we don't do it, then you're going to stay spinning your wheels.
Always wanting to do it. Like I talked about, staying on the edge of the pool.
That's right.
You might not even put your toe in because you're just too afraid of the deep water.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is I've got a lot of people who are trying to get secondary homes, and as far as building wealth, is that, and you were a financial planner, would you say real estate is one of the top ways to do that?
Well, I live by that rule, to be honest with you. So I'm glad you brought that up. I got some short-term investment properties. I got some long-term investment properties. Good. Of course, my dad, as I told you, is a financial advisor. I think there's, you don't want to be heavy on real estate.
Yeah.
You know, there's something to be said for having a diverse portfolio,
Diversify,
right?
yeah.
But my experience, and I'm not just biased because I'm in the business, but I do truly feel that, you know, real estate is one of the safest investments that you can put your money into. And it's always, for the most part, especially in this area, it's appreciating, it's growing, your equity's growing, right? So my biggest thing is I like to practice what I preach. So I invest in real estate, but I always like to help people, my clients, and I'd sell this to anybody I would get the opportunity to work with, is, hey, I'm not here for just this transaction. I'm here to be a partner to you, to help you when your family grows, when you want to, you know, you come into some money, you want to buy some investment properties, short-term rental properties. Let your money work for you, right?
Let your money work for you.
Use other people's money to make more money, and that's how really we build wealth. And I'll tell you, I personally have been involved in the real estate game, and it's been very, very powerful for my personal self to help me build some wealth through real estate. So
Nice.
I'm a big fan of it, and I've been a big supporter of it, and I like to help people, you know, see how they can actually get there.
One thing that I notice about you, and I mean, there's always a little bit of fear when you're trying something, the fear of the unknown. But just listening to your story, it seems like, you know, you are able to push past it. For example, hey, buying property, multiple properties. It's scary to some people, but me, I also grab a few properties when I can. Yeah. I invest heavy in real estate. But even when we met and I asked, hey, man, I'm looking for a partner. Like you mentioned, partner with your clients. Yeah. And there wasn't much fear. I looked in your eyes and you were like, hey, let's do it. No. And so like, I see you taking these chances and it seems like most of them pay off. Where'd you get that grit from?
Man, probably my mom. My mom, she got a lot of grit. My grandma, actually both my grandmas got a lot of grit. You know, I just feel like, you know, not to get too religious, but you know, I put my trust in the Lord, right? And I, you know, I'm faithful in my time and allowing Him to really navigate what I do, right? And so, does everything work out perfectly? Absolutely not. But nothing ever is going to work out perfectly, right? So, I just think that if you want to get to a place, if you have goals that you want to get to, whether that be personal or financial or, you know, whatever type of goals those are, you have to plan those things out, and you can't be afraid because you're not going to, like we talked about the first time home buyer, somebody wanting to buy a house, you're not going to get there unless you know the plan, and you got to take steps to get there. I always tell people, let the numbers drive your decision. Come talk to my loan officer first. Let's figure out where you are financially, because everything else, that's the foundation. And you have to take that step. And maybe you're 6 months away, but you won't know unless you talk to someone, and then let's get a plan to fix that. Yeah, that 6 months can turn into a year real quick if you don't do anything about it, right?
Exactly. And some people get stuck up on like analysis paralysis. You mentioned, hey, build a plan and move forward. But at some point, you won't have all the pieces of the plan figured out. I like risk management. So I try to figure out the risk and try to figure out, hey, this is what I can do when this risk comes along. But you won't have all the answers. And at some point, you just have to go and know on the fly.
You got to, there's got to be some faith involved, right?
Yeah, you definitely have to have faith.
Step out and say, hey, if this is going to happen, and you know what? Sometimes you need to have that little. There needs to be a little bit of fear in there for you to be successful, right? I mean, I know you know, not everything we do is going to be easy. Right?
I mean, I've taken losses. What I say about losses is every education cost. Like, you went to DeVry. I don't know if you had a scholarship, but you probably paid for that education, even with the business that you're in. Yeah. Any chance that you take, whether you succeed or fail, if you lose some money on it, hopefully you learn something valuable. Chalk it up as tuition.
Yep. That's right, man. Learning lessons, very valuable learning lessons.
It is. So good, man. So, I mean, where could people find you if they wanted to get a mortgage or find out more about their buying or, selling their home or refinancing, et cetera?
www.joshbibler.com, just my first last name, JOSHBIBLER.com. That's my personal website. It's got everything about me on there. It's got an application, all my contact information. So, man, I like I said, I love helping people. you know, I just appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today, man. It's been fun.
We want to grow it. We want people to hear this. You said something about, hey, the application on your link for your website. And people are so afraid to hit that application. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit before we get out of here. I want to figure out, like, why should you be afraid? I mean, some people have excellent credit. Like, why you have excellent credit? You need to use it. You need to hit the application.
Well, first of all, that application's secure. It's password protected. You know, some people get fear. There's a fear about that. But I think the biggest fear is, you know, of rejection
or dragging down my score.
Well, first, that ain't, you know, when we pull mortgage reports, they don't drag your score down. That's a big myth.
That's a big myth, and people
think that all the time. It's not going to hurt you. But furthermore, I think, you know, there's no, again, coming from my background in the subprime world. I mean, I've been there. I've had real bad credit, man.
Yeah, me too.
I've seen bad credit. It's not that bad, right? People get worried about it, but again, until you know what you have, how are you going to know where you're going to go?
You don't know. You don't have a direction.
So, you know, don't be afraid because, again, I'm not one of those guys, and I've heard it all the time. Hey, this guy wouldn't call me back, you know, and I'm not one of those people. I like to, again, if it doesn't work right now, it's okay. Let's figure out how to get there. And it may take you 3 months. It may take you 6 months. Heck, I've had clients that come back and we're on a year plan and they're like, hey, they're buying now, right?
I've had that situation where when I first started my business, like friends that I knew, you know, or associates, I really felt like they didn't give me the business because they were ashamed for me maybe knowing about their financial history. But like you said, hey, I've been there and I don't have to see it. Like we can set you up with the lender. You can have a plan, but that's nothing to be ashamed of, you know? So
not at all, man. And like I said, everybody should. They you know, they need to earn, but we all deserve an opportunity to own our own home, right? And we can. It's just a matter of how much you want it.
How bad you want it. We can only do so much. You know, but you have to. We can bring the horse over. Come on, nay. Right. But you have to drink. You have to drink. Hey, man, again, it was a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, man.
Hey, to the people out there, please follow, subscribe, comment. If you learned anything or if you have any additional questions about today's show, please let us know. That's how we all can grow. That's how the information can get out. This guy studied his industry. He knows it. I study my industry. I know it like the back of my hand. So, I mean, we don't want to hoard the information. No. We want to spread the information, spread the love, spread the spirit, and spread the faith for you to step out and start your own business venture. So, with that being said, thank you again, man, for coming to Boss Up with Mr. Key. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And we'll keep doing business together and helping a lot of Austonians or Austinites. Grab a piece of the soil.
Amen.
And with that being said, it's a wrap.